Welcome to the Airgun Show, brought to you by Airgun World magazine. Do check out the subscription offers that we have for the magazine, which include shooting insurance. In this week's episode, I'm taking a look at 3 very different pellets from Bisley, but first up, I'm targeting rabbits that have been wreaking havoc in a friend's vegetable patch. I'm out on quite an interesting shoot this evening. Now, having been absent on my ground for quite a while, or certainly much thinner on the ground due to the hemorrhagic virus, rabbits are now starting to really bounce back, and so much so in some localities around my patch that they're causing some really serious problems, and this place is a case in point. Now, my friend lives here off-grid. He manages an area of coppice for a living, and also, as you can see behind me, has quite an extensive vegetable garden which sustains him. Now, the rabbits are causing him problems twofold really, because they're gnawing young trees in his coppice and deforming the way that they should grow, which is affecting the value of his business, and they're also munching their way through his food, so he's pretty keen to have their numbers reduced. Now, we're getting towards the end of the day, so I'm expecting the rabbits to start venturing out to feed soon, but from what we've seen, the couple that we have witnessed since we arrived, although they haven't seen any shooting pressure here, they're quite skittish, so I'm quite eager to see how they do actually behave once we're hunkered down. Now, as you can see looking at the vegetable patch, that might be where they're causing problems, but the nature of its layout with all of the fencing makes it very difficult to get any clear shots, so I think I'm going to adopt my usual strategy of digging in, getting down on my belly and shooting from the stability of a bipod, but we'll do it a little way away towards the coppice where they seem to be emerging and coming through the yard on their way to the veggie patch. So I'll get myself settled in and hopefully we'll get a few. Well, that's the first one in the bag. It was grazing away over in that scrubby corner. Presented me with a relatively straightforward shot at about 25 metres, which resulted in a nice clean smack to the head and a very clean kill. And the reason I've got a pretty good idea of the range without having checked just then is because as soon as I'd settled in here, and I often do this, had the rangefinder to hand, and I've just ranged a couple of prominent objects that I can see around the yard in front of me. So by knowing the range to those 4 or 5 objects, when the rabbits come out, I've got those markers to give me a rough estimate. I then work out how many yards or metres roughly the rabbit is closer or further, and apply aim off accordingly. That one needed a touch of hold under, and as I said, really nice clean kill and a nice start to the session. There's one out right by where we had the last one. Flippin' heck. Well, that is the risk you take when you try to squeak up a rabbit. That one was pretty close to where we just shot that first one. But it had its head down, so I thought I'd be clever, give it a squeak in the hope of making it sit up, and all it did was made it spook and run back off into cover. As I said at the outset, they are a little bit warier here than I thought they would be. There you go. Same place again, mate. Same place again. Yeah, we are having to be pretty patient, but this setup with the FX DRS, it is laser accurate, so when the rabbits do come out, the shots aren't particularly difficult. It's a nice still evening, so it's not the most challenging shooting as long as I get those shots and the rabbits don't run off before I get a chance to take the shot. One by the edge of the track that time and much more clearly presented. That shot just literally switched that one off. I really hope that I'm getting some nice clear scope cam footage for you, because it's just looking pin sharp to me. Well, there's one for anybody who thinks I never miss. And that rabbit was about 30 metres away, and from a setup like this should have been a really straightforward shot, but the rabbit had other ideas and decided to move its head, turn its head, just as I touched off the trigger, and the result there was a clean miss. It was a lucky rabbit. Good job I didn't miss that one. As you will see through the scope cam footage, that one was sat right in front of a drum. Good reason for using a sub 12 gun and not an FAC one as well there, actually, because if I'd punctured that drum, my mate would probably be tapping me up for a new one. But as I've said before, this is a laser accurate setup. Really nice clean shot there. That rabbit didn't know what had hit it. I've actually paired the DRS, as I often do, with QYS pellets. It's the streamlined version, and I'm just constantly surprised by how many of my air guns get on well with these pellets, particularly the heavier version, which I think is 9.56 grains. And as you will have seen through the footage that I'm capturing through the scope cam, yeah, they hit hard, and if you put them in the right place, these rabbits just don't know what's hit them. Right, well, we've had a really long wait now with no sign of a rabbit, and yeah, that is a bit frustrating because I had genuinely expected things to pick up as the light levels dropped off. I would probably give it a bit longer, but my mate has just invited us in for a brew before he turns in, and that's convinced me that now is a good time to get up and stretch my legs. So yeah, I mean, as I've suggested, I had expected to get more rabbits tonight, if I'm honest with you, but I suppose that was down to the fact that I expected them to be pretty naive, having had no real shooting pressure before. But, you know, there are two of us here. Yes, I'm enjoying the stealth of being down on my belly and off the skyline, but Nikki's moving around with the camera. I'm talking to the camera. We're talking to each other. There is that inevitable disturbance that is putting them on edge. It's also a little bit frustrating that we can't get more into that vegetable patch because of the way that there are various fences and boundaries in there. It's just impossible to get shots, and that might be something that we have to think about working out a way around for a future visit. But the opportunities that we have had, the kit has performed brilliantly. I'm really liking the FX DRS. I think it's an amazing gun for the money. This one has got the beautiful, this is the classic model, it's got the beautiful walnut stock, and I've actually had to take a drill to that earlier today in order to fit the stud for the bipod attachment this evening. And as ever, you know, the Hawke Sidewinder scope, crystal sharp. It sometimes loses a bit of optical quality through the scope camera, but hopefully I've captured you some decent footage tonight. So I'm going to get these rabbits picked up, and we're going to head in for a brew. An eventful evening on the bunnies there. Next up, I'm taking a look at a selection of pellets from Bisley. Right, I've been trying out a few different 177 caliber pellets over the past week, and I thought I'd share my findings with you. Now, I've said it before, and I'm sure that most of you already know that different pellets shoot differently through different guns, so I can't guarantee that you will get exactly the same results with your airgun, but what I would say is that these are decent pellets, so they are certainly worth a try. Now, the contenders are Bisley Magnum, Bisley Super Field, and Field Pest Control. Okay, so there are a lot of numbers and statistics in this one, so forgive me, but I'm going to need to refer to my notes. Yeah, so kicking off with the Bisley Magnums. Now this is a pretty heavy pellet, weighing in at 10.6 grains in 177 caliber. It's a fairly long domed pellet with a stated head size of 4.5 millimeters. And their recommended retail price is $14.95 for 500, although obviously you can expect to find them for less if you shop around. Now the tin doesn't have a foam disc, but what I would say is the pellets really clean, tidily made, and they arrived looking virtually flawless. I tested these pellets through my Walther RM8 UC, and I was shooting groups at 20, 30, and 40 meters. Now, referring back to my notes so I get it right. So yeah, working from that 30 meter zero, at 20 meters, the Magnums produced a 5-shot group measuring just 6 millimeters from center to center and striking 6 millimeters high. Now at 30 meters, the 5-shot group measured just 7 millimeters from center to center and was obviously bang on that 30 meter zero that I'd already set. Now at 40 meters, the group was 13 millimeters
from centre to centre and had dropped 30 millimetres from that 30 metre zero. Now that is a bit more of a drop at 40 metres than a lot of pellets are likely to give you in 177, but it's a slightly heavier pellet, and it's also turns out to be the best grouping pellet in this test. So it could well be worth working with that extra drop if you're prepared to use the holdover to compensate for it. In terms of power, the Magnums were producing 11.2 foot-pounds through the RM8 UC with a variation of just 6 feet per second over a string of 10 shots. As for penetration, they produced a 47mm wound channel in my plasticine block. Now that's the deepest in this test and presumably a result of the extra momentum from their fairly significant weight. They didn't really deform all that noticeably, and I wouldn't really expect a domed pellet to deform that much on plasticine anyway. Moving on to the Bisley Superfield. Now, this is a really interesting pellet because it's almost a hybrid between a domed pellet and a hollow point because it's got that little dimple in the head. So yeah, these pellets have a stated weight of 8.64 grains and a head size of 4.5 millimeters, and the recommended retail price is also $14.95 for 500. Now again, there was no foam in the tin, but they looked really cleanly made and once again arrived in excellent condition. Working from that 30 metre zero again, at 20 metres, the Superfields produced a 5-shot group measuring 8 millimetres from centre to centre and striking 7 millimetres high. At 30 metres, the 5-shot group measured just 10 millimetres from centre to centre and was obviously bang on zero. At 40 metres, the group was still a very respectable 15 millimetres from centre to centre and had dropped just 20 millimetres from that 30 metre zero. Power-wise, the Superfields produced a muzzle energy of 11.1 foot-pounds through the RM8 with a variation of 7 feet per second over a 10-shot string. As for penetration, they produced a 45 millimetre wound channel in the plasticine block, and there was a little expansion, but really not a lot. And again, I don't tend to expect a lot of expansion when you're working with a sub 12 foot-pound airgun. Last up is the Bisley Pest Control, and this is a true hollow point with a real dum-dum style to it. So these pellets have a stated weight of 8.8 grains and a 4.5 millimetre head size. Recommended retail price is £9.95 for a tin of 400. Now once again, there was no foam in the tin, but they looked very tidy and certainly a lot cleaner and more neatly produced than a lot of hollow point pellets that I've tried in the past. Now, it may have been that the pest controls weren't a great match with the barrel on my RM8 UC, or it could have been that their hollow point just meant that they didn't perform brilliantly in the air over longer ranges, but I couldn't get a fantastic group with them at 40 metres. So instead, I zeroed in at 25 metres and shot groups at 20, 25 and 30 metres. So at 20 metres, the group measured 10 millimetres from centre to centre and was 7 millimetres high from that 25 metre zero. At 25 metres, the group measured 13 millimetres from centre to centre and was smack on zero. At 30 metres, the group was 18 millimetres from centre to centre and had dropped 9 millimetres from the 25 metre zero. As for power, the pest controls were giving me 10.4 foot-pounds through the RM8 UC, and variation was 11 feet per second over a string of 10 shots. Now, although they weren't grouping brilliantly at longer ranges, I would certainly say that I was getting good enough groups for targeting live quarry out to 25 metres. And I think these pellets would certainly be suitable for the control of rats and feral pigeons around farm buildings, and I'm confident that they would definitely dump some energy. That their wound channel was actually the shallowest in this test by some margin at just 23 millimetres. And when it comes to expansion, that wide cupped hollow point really did its job. They certainly transferred some energy, and I'm confident that they would hit like a sledgehammer. For me, using my Walther RM8 UC, I think I'd go with the heavier Bisley Magnums. Now, their grouping was brilliant, and I think that extra weight will also make them a bit more stable in the wind. Now, that said, the Super Fields also grouped very well, and the pest controls are going to deliver serious wallop at closer ranges. So it really is horses for courses. But as I said, it's going to vary from gun to gun. And what I've tried to do with my testing is show you groups that are a pretty fair illustration of the performance that I was getting through my gun in relatively calm conditions. As ever, I've tried not to be too technical and simply show you what this selection of pellets has done for me, and actually they've all done pretty well. I've used Bisley target cards for the test groups. They're made from nice thick card, so they cut nice and cleanly, and I hope that that's made my findings clear to see. Now obviously I've said repeatedly pellet performance does vary from barrel to barrel, but if you're looking for a 177 pellet, I would certainly say that these are well worth experimenting with. There should be something here to cover most applications, and ultimately it's going to hinge on what you want from your airgun pellet and how they perform through the barrel of your airgun.
I'm afraid that's all we've got time for in this week's episode, but as ever, I'll be back with more in 2 weeks. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to like and subscribe. Do also check out the subscription offers that we have for Airgun World magazine, which includes shooting insurance. There should be a link to that in the show description, along with a discount for Airgun Show viewers. While you're there, sign up for the free Airgun World newsletter, which will keep you bang up to date with everything that's going on at the magazine. As I said, I'm back again in a fortnight. In the meantime, enjoy your shooting and stay safe.